today to go. A lot of fun things to do, and I want to introduce our special guest. And I want to introduce also my son James. For those who don't know him, he's over here, and I know he just had another surgery in November, so it's the second one. And I mean, as you can see, there's no deficits. But as of this point, so he hadn't really even had a chance to even see anything that we were planning on. Not that we did anything that we were planning on. So, but my old pastor used to always say, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken." So, you know, but I want to introduce our guest. And this is my friend Cindy, and I'm just so thankful that she's here. Oh, I gotta take her. I just want to, you guys to welcome her. I met Cindy probably, I probably met her before that, but I started to get to know her in like maybe 2016. We were both in a Christian ministry program, Paulette's back there, so it was a school that she was putting together, and I'm just always really amazed at, oh, can they hear me? Can you guys hear me back there? I don't know if I got everybody's attention. Anyways, I met her back in 2016, and Cindy was the type that she was just, I know everybody's coming. No, she's a good friend, and so I just, I met her then, and I started to get to know her better, and she had some tragedy in her life, you know, like, she lost her son in 2017, right? Was it 17? And I just was really amazed at how she picked up the paces. I mean, oh, James, you can go eat if you want. Well, he's hungry, so, but I was going to say, she does so much. So the way we had really connected was after her son passed away. She had a little pendant and with his ashes in it, and it got lost. And she lost it, and it went viral over the internet. Everybody was looking for this pendant. It was on the news and everything else. And somebody found it, and it was broken in half, and it was like really special to her. And I hadn't done glass in like a really long time. You know, I have a kiln and I do glass, and the Lord kept on nudging me. He's like, you can fix this for her. And so, and it was like crazy because it was a whole long thing, the news came and everything else. Cindy's always in the news, so she gets in the news all the time. But yeah, so, and then I got invited later to her home. She did vision boards. And so I was like amazed because this girl does amazing things. I mean, besides that she's a mother and, you know, she's married, she has a husband, I think he's a police officer and everything else, and she's a grandma. She has gone on to, like, instead of just kind of hiding, okay. She's amazing, I wouldn't get going. But anyway, she's written books. She's written like several books. She's an illustrator and artist. She's very talented. And the one thing that impressed me so much, I don't think she's taught on vision boards except for in her home. So she's spoken on a whole lot of different things, on autism awareness, and she'll explain all of that. But most of the things on her vision board, actually, I was like so impressed because she actually does look good. So I'll let her introduce herself, but I just want everybody to give her a warm welcome. She's a woman of honor, a sister in Christ.
Thank you. When I was, I had prepared, and I wanted to keep this really quick because I didn't want to take up too much time because I want you all to have time to do vision boards. But I felt like this morning the Lord was telling me, you know, you need to give it a little backstory. You can't just jump to the vision board because you need to see where I was, to see where I came from, to see where I am now, so that hopefully that will encourage you. So just to tell you a little bit about my story, when I was growing up, my grandfather was an Episcopalian minister, and my dad worked for the church. My dad was very abusive, so I had a pretty miserable childhood. I was never happy. And in 7th grade, this was in the 70s, this was in the height of the Jesus movement, they had a Faith Alive weekend at the Episcopal Church. And these born-again Christians came to the church, and they were talking about Jesus in a way like they knew him. And they were saying that they would pray and God would answer their prayers. And they would say God would speak to them. And I was like, I want to know Jesus like that. I want to know Jesus like they do. Because in the Episcopal Church, all we do is read prayers out of a book. You know? But then he's real. So I prayed that night. I asked Jesus into my heart. And my eyes were closed. I was laying in my bed. And I saw my first vision where I saw myself in the bottom of a pit. And Jesus was at the top in the light, and he reached his hand all the way down in the pit, and he pulled me up out of the pit. Wow. So that was the beginning. My whole family got saved then. So things got a little bit better at home. But then in high school, I met some people from an Assemblies of God church in the next town over. So I must have been, 15, maybe. I didn't have my license yet. So I had a moped. Who remembers mopeds? It's like an electric bike, basically. So I used to sing in the choir on Sunday morning in the Episcopal Church, and then Sunday nights I would ride my moped to the Assembly of God church. And I was baptized in water, and I was baptized in the Holy Ghost, and I was immersed in the whole Christian culture back then. And that was the first time I ever heard about Women's Aglow. It was women's then. But I was just a kid, and that was for old ladies. But I went once. Now I am one of those old ladies. But that's how that was how I had heard about Aglow. So it goes all the way back then. So fast forward a little bit, my parents they kind of stopped going to Bible study. They started to decline again. And I had met, he wasn't a boy. He was in his 20s. I was 18. And he was 5 years older than me. And I fell in love. But he was not a Christian. He did not know the Lord. Okay, he was Italian. He was Catholic. But did not go to church. And my dad started to get abusive again. And I remember the day standing in the kitchen, and he slapped me across the face. And I just glared at him, and I was like, I'm out of here. And I left. We were planning on getting married eventually, but I eloped. And I said, my father does not deserve to walk me down the aisle. I'm done. I'm out of here. My grandfather married us. I just called him up. I said, I want to get married now. I don't want to wait. And I went and I moved in with my husband's family. Fast forward a couple of years, and then I had twin girls. And so I don't know what it's like to have one baby. But I was only 21. They were born 3 weeks after my 21st birthday. I was very young. So my doctor said it was the healthiest twin pregnancy she'd ever seen. I was like, yeah, because I was young. And then 5 years later, I had a boy. But right before that, my friend that I used to go to the Assembly of God church with, she called me up and she says, hey, I've been going to this church down in Edison, and I want you to come with me. And she brought me to Faith Fellowship. And that was when I got my life, I rededicated my life to the Lord there. And then I got pregnant, and I had my son, and I was there for a couple of years, and at around 2 years old, he stopped speaking. And we didn't know what was going on. We thought maybe he was hearing impaired. Then we got him into early intervention, and it turned out that he got the diagnosis of autism. And I still remember that day when I was in church, and Dave DeMola, he preached this message about, it was Elisha and the woman that her son, she had prayed for years to have a baby, right? And he said that she would have a baby, and then all of a sudden one day the boy died, and she ran to Elisha. And he said, what's wrong, what's wrong? She says, it is well, it is well. And she would not say what was wrong. She's like, no, it's well. And I remember standing up, shouting in church that day, it is well, because I was going through it, So let's fast forward, a few years, and my life was kind of crazy. My life was all about raising kids, going to church and being a mom. And my mother was a ballet teacher. She used to teach in the parish hall at the church, so I grew up dancing. So I put my dance background to work, and I became an aerobics instructor. So I used to teach aerobics and raised my kids. And I started, and one day when I was working in the health club, a woman came in and she painted a mural in the nursery. I was like, that's kind of cool. So I went home and I painted a mural in my kids' room. And then my friend said, hey, why don't you come paint a mural in my kids' room? And then my girls were a little older, they were teaching dance, and I did a mural at the dance studio, and I bartered for dance lessons. And then some rich lady in Summit saw it, and she says, hey, why don't you come and paint a mural in my kid's house? And I painted this entire jungle in the whole room, and I think I charged her $200.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know either. But in my head, I didn't know what I was doing. This was new. This was like my first paying job, and I was like, I'm praying the whole time. I have no idea. I'm like, God, show me what to do because I'm going to totally mess this up. I don't know what I'm doing. And it turned out amazing. Shocked myself. And then one job led to another and led to another. So that was my life, was painting murals and then doing faux finishes and teaching aerobics and a couple mornings and raising my kids. And my life became very, very stressful with my son. If you know anything about autism, it's non-stop, no sleep, just constant stress. And as he got older, he would start attacking us. He was completely nonverbal. He was, so, he's 17 years old, he's still wearing a diaper, he's still watching Disney movies. He'd get frustrated if people didn't understand him, and he would go after my husband and he would yank him to the floor and he wouldn't stop until he heard his shirt rip. And then at 17, he started having seizures. That was a 911 call and a run to the hospital every time. So we started having PTSD, really. He was vomiting every weekend. I don't want to get graphic because y'all are trying to eat. But it was a lot. And then I added my fourth son at the time also, so he was younger. And he was getting stressed. He was having stomach aches all the time because every time my son would make a noise where it sounded like maybe he was getting sick, then everything goes down on high alert. And you're at this constant state of fight or flight. And he used to run away a lot, too. So we used to have to call the police to go find him because he would disappear. And he knew which neighbors had a pool, so he would take off and he couldn't get in the pool, so he'd go run in the woods and they'd find him in the next town. So, he'd be off, like, my husband was at work one day and he heard this report. There's a boy in pajamas and bare feet, like running across my yard. He looks disoriented, and this was blocks away from our house. And my husband's like, that cannot be Robbie. He's too far away. Sure enough, he went and he found the police car, and Robbie's sitting in the back of the police car with his feet up in the air, up on the ceiling, cracking up laughing. He thought it was hilarious. He didn't know any better. So that was my life for a long time. And then I did go to work in 2005. The faux finishes were going out of style. I was up on a ladder 20 feet in the air and I almost fell off the ladder. I said, that's it, I'm done. The anointing is lifted for this. I'm not doing this anymore. And I went to work in a paint store as their interior designer, helping people choose paint colors. Still teaching the aerobics and stuff and still going to church. And then, as she had mentioned, in 2017, Robbie had a seizure in his sleep, and he did not wake up. And he went to heaven that day. So that was pretty devastating, to say the least, obviously. So my girls are now grown. They're out of the house. My daughter Patty had moved down to Charlotte area, down North Carolina. She was actually right on the border of South Carolina, right on the border of Fort Mill. Who knows what's in Fort Mill, South Carolina? Morningstar. Morningstar. Yes. Yes. So she had had a baby, and God has the perfect timing because that baby was born about 7 months before Robbie went to heaven. So I had a new baby to love. So I was down in Charlotte. And this is now, he went to heaven in November 2017, so now we're in April, we're a few months later. But I really just felt like my life was so wrapped up in him, I didn't know where I was going in my life. I really didn't. I didn't know what was next. I had words spoken over me many years ago, 30 years ago. Danny Kramer prophesied over me. He said, I see you standing in front of God's people, and you're going to speak to them, and you're an encourager. It's all over you. I said, there's a new breed of women, God says. A new breed of women is coming on the scene. You will be one of those unapologetic women that will stir my people to new heights of holiness. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, right. But the other side of me was like, oh, yes, I'm getting called into ministry. This is great. I was in my 30s. I was young. I wanted to be in ministry. That's all I ever wanted was to be in ministry. Didn't happen. I was in a church that was run by controlling men that believed that the women's only job was to work, was to teach the kids and change diapers in the nursery. You're going nowhere. Right? So my unsaved husband, who's Italian, who knows the culture, okay? My father passed away. We did a funeral for him at the church, and they pulled my husband right into the back office and sat him in the chair like he was one of the Goombas. He was like, he was in. He was not even saved yet. He's in the club, you know? And he says to me afterwards, he says, you're going nowhere in this church. He said, I grew up with these men. He says, my aunts were never even allowed to drive a car. He said that my uncles drove them to church every day, and they will control everything you do. You're going nowhere. I was like, well, that's not really what it's about, you know. And my job was to sit and submit, you know. So, anyway, after that, though, my husband got saved. It took 20 years, okay, but he did finally get saved, okay. I ended up leaving that controlling church. So this is 10 years later, and I was having prophetic dreams. Couldn't find anybody that understood these prophetic dreams, but I had heard about John Paul Jackson, right? And I heard that there was a conference in Cranford, and he was coming. I was like, okay, I'm going to go. But you have to understand, when I left that church, I was considered a traitor. Everybody turned their back on me. I was excommunicated. Okay, right? So, and I used to work there. My friends, I was so close with my friends. I used to spend my holidays at their house. Okay, I lost my church, my friends, my job, everything. And I was so like, again, PTSD. Like I was terrified of them, and I was so scared, you know, and so done with church. So for me to go to this conference, I'm sitting in the back, like with my arms folded like this, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want anything to do with you people. I don't want anything to do with church. I want nothing to do with any of this. I'm only here because I want to hear about dreams. And everybody there was so excited, and everybody there wanted a word from the Lord, right? And I'm sitting in the back, and he says, you in the back in the pink shirt. And I'm like, and I was like, oh, he's so good at me. He's like, stand up. I was like, oh. He says, this amazing teaching gift that you have has not gone unnoticed by God. I was like, oh, God was watching all those years. He says, you will teach, and you will go not only to the nation, but to nations, plural. And I'm sitting here going, I got the husband that won't do anything, barely lets me out of the house, and I've got this severely autistic son. You know, I was like, how am I going to the nations? This is not happening. I was like, you know. Anyway, so that was obviously a couple of years. Okay, so Robbie passes away. All right. So now I go down to see my daughter. I go to Morningstar for a conference, and Rick Joyner gives everybody a copy of his book. So I'm flying home, and I got nothing going on in my life. And I start reading Rick's book, and he's talking about how he was in the church, he left, he wanted nothing to do with it. I'm like, I can relate to that. He went off and he owned airplanes and became like a multimillionaire in Forbes magazine, owning all these airplanes. And then all of a sudden, in one day, he went bankrupt and lost everything. And he said, all I had was $100 in my pocket and a vision that God had given me that someday I would have this ministry that he didn't want, right? And as soon as I read that vision, I looked out the window of the airplane and I said, Lord, that's what I need. I need a vision. I need a vision of where I'm going because I don't know where I'm going. Why am I here? So I go home and I'm sitting, and it was April, so it had to be baseball season. My husband was watching baseball, I'm sure. And I'm sitting in the chair and I'm flipping through Facebook, my news feed, and I don't have the sound on. And this blonde lady who looked like a newscaster popped up, and I'm reading the captions, and she says, you need to have a vision. I say, wait, what did she just say? Stop, back up, you need to have a vision. And to me, this is funny. I don't know if anybody else finds this funny, but in my head, she sounded like a newscaster, like you need to have a vision in your life, right? And when I turned the sound on, her voice sounded like this. It sounded like a 5-year-old little girl. It was like, I don't know, it was really funny. It was Terry Savelle, so it was Jerry Savelle's daughter, okay, Terry Savelle. And she's talking about vision boards. And she was giving away her book for free, like, hurry up this offer, you got 24 hours, order this book now and you get the book. So I ordered the book. Here it is. Here, pen with it. Okay, and she talks all about doing vision boards and setting up and having a vision for your life. So that was the first time I did my vision board. Okay, so the vision. What does the Bible say about vision? Okay, Proverbs 29, where there is no vision, the people perish. Perish means what? To die. So if you don't have a vision, so perish equals die, but the opposite of die is life. So if you have a vision, you have life. So it can breathe new life into your life to have a vision. Okay? So I went home, I do my first vision board, and I'm going to show it to you. Now, around that time, okay, so right the year before Robbie went to heaven, so 2016, I left working in the paint store, and I was no longer working there as a designer, but I was working on my own. Okay. In the beginning, when I first worked there, a woman walked in one day and she called me the paint diva. I was like, oh, I like that. I'm going to use that. And it turned out to be great marketing because when I left, I have this Italian last name that nobody can pronounce or remember, right? But they remember the paint diva, so they could find me. So I said, I'm not in the store anymore. How are people going to find me? So I booked what I call the library tour, and I put together this PowerPoint, and I spoke at all the libraries in my area. I went from Bernardsville to Berkeley Heights, New Providence, Summit, out to Livingston, right? And I was talking about design trends, right? And as I was doing this, I got the idea I should write a book, really, about how to choose paint colors. Because every once in a while I'd get an email from somebody in California or whatever, and they was like, can you help me choose a paint color? I'm like, don't you have anybody out there to help you? And they're like, no, there's nobody that does what you do. So I started to realize this is kind of a unique thing that somebody specializes in choosing paint colors, right? And it's very stressful. Anybody here tried to choose paint colors? And I've gotten stressed out over it? It's kind of overwhelmed? No. Look, creative people are fine. It's, I work for a lot of very intelligent people, that are in like IT and, accountants and all that kind of stuff, but they're not very right-brained, and it's like very, they see 3 shades of white and their head spins and they don't know what to do. So, but I wanted to write this book about how to choose paint colors. It was an idea in my head. Did I know how to write a book? No. Did I have any idea how I was going to do this? No. How was I going to write it and not have it be all about Benjamin Moore? I don't know. But I wanted to give it a try, okay? So, this is my first board that I did. Had a lot of fun with it. I went to Michael's and I got all these cute little stickers and everything, okay? And so what I learned from Terry, this is really funny. Yeah. So Terry would talk about her dreams and goals and visions. She loves French culture. She loves Paris, and she wanted to go to Paris, and she saw herself someday speaking to thousands of people. So what she did was she took a picture of Joyce Meyer speaking to a stadium full of thousands of people. She cut her head off and put her own face on Joyce Meyer, right? So I learned from her. So here's what I did.
Oh, that's great.
I took a picture of the 2 ladies in the Today Show, and I put myself in the middle. I put myself with Hoda, okay? and Kathy Lee's not even on it. But for some reason, I just had this thing in my head, like I want to be on the Today Show. But I don't even watch the Today Show, so why I had that in my head, I don't know. I just had to be on the Today Show, right? So I put myself there with them on the Today Show. Here I am with my Pink Diva book at Barnes & Noble, right? And then this other dream that I had was, I go to this women's networking group, and they opened up a day spa, and they invited all of the women to come to have this mini spa experience, and we had a pedicure, a facial, and a massage, okay? And my girlfriend was there, I'm going to show you my friend Paula. Here I am with my friend Paula. She had twins with autism, and her marriage was falling apart. Okay, so I saw her there, and I know how stressed out she was. And when I saw her there that night with her robe on, she was smiling. And I said, she needs this more than any of these other women here. And I got this idea. I said, someday I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do retreats like this, a spa day for moms that have autistic kids.
Wow.
So I put it here, and I had a dream one night about lemons and lemonade and stuff, and turning lemons into lemonade. So I just put that all here: the sours, lemons, lemonade, and all these women sitting at the table here. And here I am speaking, and here's Paula, right? And then my big dream is. This is a farmstead community for, because my son had lived in a group home and it's terrible and the system is very broken and I want to fix it, right? So that's this. This is my like $25 million out there big dream, okay? But that's what I put there. And this is my remodeled house, and this is Florida, right? Like I really would want to. I don't want to move to Florida. I want to be a snowbird, you know. I just want to go back and forth. Okay. So this was all out there like. Don't ask me how any of this stuff is going to happen. I have no idea, but I had a lot of fun doing it, right? And that's that. Okay. So that was the end of that. All right.
That's great.
So that was, what year was that? That was 2018. Okay. So then in 2019, the next board, I don't have that one here with me, but basically it was, I had a picture of myself writing a book, you know, sitting there, and I put this little penguin above it. And I don't remember the timing of this, but I went to a book seminar once at a church, and Linda Boland was there. And I saw somebody I knew. I was like, oh, Linda's here. Good, let me sit down. So then as soon as I sit down, she goes, you're going to write a children's book about a little penguin, about your son, about autism. I said, I am? Okay. Now, I forgot to tell you the penguin story. The day yes, I did. So the day that Robbie passed, you know how the family and the friends all come over to your house, okay? So my neighbor was there, and people were all at the house, and then they get up to leave, and then they come back, and they knock on the door, and they come in, and they show me this. They said, I found this little penguin on your front lawn. They said, were your nieces here today? Did they drop this? I said, no, there were no kids here today. I have no idea where this penguin came from. Okay. So a couple days later, my husband goes back to work. He finds a glass paperweight penguin sitting on his desk.
Oh, come on.
He's like, where did this come from? He asked all the guys, where did this penguin come from? I don't know. We've never seen it. Then the day of Robbie's memorial service comes, and my daughter, she came up from the Carolinas, she has a dream that Robbie showed up at my front door. He's knocking on the door like, come on, let's get the show on the road. Let's start my party, right? And he was wearing a tuxedo. And she's like, Mom, he looks so good. He looked like Leo DiCaprio in the movie Titanic. So I Googled it. I wanted to find it. And when I Google tuxedo, guess what comes up? A penguin. Because they call tuxedos a penguin suit. I'm like, come on. What is going on here with the penguins? So then a week later, we go to Robbie's group home, and he used to watch Disney movies, as I said, and he was watching DVDs. I said, I want to see what's the last DVD he ever watched. I hit the eject button. Out comes Happy Feet, the dancing penguins. I said, okay, all right. Okay, I get it. Okay? I don't know what you're trying to tell me about the penguins, but obviously this is all about Robbie the penguins, okay? So that's why Linda says you're going to write a children's book about penguins. Okay, sounds good to me. I don't know. So fast forward now to November. I had started writing my Paint Diva book. But I stopped. When all this happened with Robbie, I put it away. But I did talk to this PR woman from New York. She was like a real New Yorker, you know. And she's on the phone, and she was really smart because she Googled me. And I had a YouTube channel where I used to follow Robbie around for 4 years because I was trying to advocate for over 21 and there's no services and yada, yada, yada. So when she Googled me, she says, what's this Robbie and the autism? What is that? What is that all about? So I explained to her that I had the YouTube channel, what happened, he's in heaven, all that. And my whole viral story, right, with the necklace. She said, so what are you going to do now? I said, well, I don't know. I've got like over 7,000 followers on YouTube. I have this following, but I haven't touched the chat. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. She says, well, why do you write a book? I said, well, I did have this idea to write a children's book about a little penguin with autism. Oh my God, that's fabulous. You have to do that. I was like, okay. All right, I'm doing that. So I hung up the phone and I sat down and I wrote the first story, like in an hour. Bam, and it all rhymed. Because I used to write songs, so I know how to think and rhyme. But the whole first story was just of him being little, and they realized he had autism, and he went to the doctor, he got diagnosed. I was like, well, that's just the beginning, I have to write more. So for the rest of the week, I just kept writing, and I wrote 12 stories. And it went all the way up to Robbie taking a trip at the end to heaven, but it doesn't say it's heaven. It's like he kind of flies away and goes off and visits this land where the Lion King lives, and he swims with the dolphins and all this cute stuff. So I was like, this is so cool. And then that's the end of 2019. Now we get into the beginning of 2020. And it's January. So here's my vision board. This one I have on my computer. Well, I could tell you what's on it. I'll tell you what's on it. It's a map of the United States, and California's highlighted over here. There's an airplane flying over, and then it says the year of travel, and then like a woman on an airplane, and then I had Europe, because now we were going to Israel in March. I already knew I was going to Israel, but for some reason I was like, I've never been to Europe though. Like that's sort of like my bucket list. So I put Italy and France in this big picture of England with Big Ben, right? And I put a crown on my head and the Queen and all this stuff, right? Don't ask me why I put all that stuff on there. It just looked fun when I was looking in the magazines, and I just put it on there, okay? So February, my sister's a photographer. She says, look, I got to go do a photo shoot in California. You want to come with me? I'll pay for your trip. Sure, let's go. And so we flew out to LA. I brought my sketch pad, and I started sketching all the illustrations of my penguins, because I knew I had a long flight. Then March rolls around. We're going to Israel. COVID breaks out. Yay! But we went anyway. Brought my sketch pad, because it's a really long flight, and I did lots of sketches of penguins, on the flight all the way there. Yes. And then on the way back, right before it was time, everything started shutting down. The hotel started shutting down. The airport started shutting down. Everything started shutting down. I'm in the airport, and they said, we were supposed to connect in Germany and then fly to the U.S., and they said your flight was canceled. And I was like, what? I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I'm in another country here. They said, no, you're going to England. And, and we strongly advise you to go there, because those airlines are not shutting down yet. Here we're shutting down. So you have to go there. I'm like, okay. So I'm there with one other woman from the Midwest. We go together and we go to England, and they're like, okay, this flight is canceled, but there's another flight in 4 hours. Do you want that one? And we said, yes, we'll take it. So now we got 4 hours to kill. We're like, what do we do? Let's go sightseeing. So we asked the lady behind the counter, where can we go? They're like, well, Windsor Castle's about a 15-minute ride from here if you want. You can just hop a cab and go visit Windsor Castle. Like, we're going. So we're in this cute little, cab, and with the driver on the right side and not the left, and I'm sitting there looking at all the little Tudor houses, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, like, oh, this is on my vision board. I put England on my vision board. I'm here. Oh my gosh. And then we go to Windsor Castle. We're touring, and because it was COVID, she normally doesn't stay there, but they said, yeah, the Queen is here. She's actually here at Windsor Castle. And then I remembered, oh my God, I had the crown and the Queen and all this stuff was on my vision board. This is so cool. So that was like my favorite part of the trip. And then we went across the street to a pub, and we had fish and chips, and then we just went back and we flew home, So we're having a ball, and everybody's like freaking out that, they're never going to get home. And, it's like, no, we're having a ball. We were having so much fun. So that vision board came to pass. Now, what I want to say is, vision boards, some people into New Age, they're all into manifesting and all that kind of stuff. That's not what this is. There's nothing mystical or magical about it. What I do is, I'll put on some worship music, close my eyes, this is like 1 minute, and I'm like, Lord, show me, what do you have for my life? Okay? What do you want me to do this year? And then maybe I get a picture of stuff, maybe I don't. Then we start going through magazines, and that's where the London thing came. I just was flipping through magazines. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Let me put that on there. It was like it meant. I didn't know what that meant, right? So some stuff I have no idea what it means, but it just happens. So and so it's almost like a prophetic exercise. Really, is what it is. And some of the stuff is. It's what does God have for me? What is His plan for my life? Which is, as moms, we do everything for everybody else. We never want to do anything for ourselves, right? And as Christians, it's like, well, Lord, what do you want me to do? We never really ask for what we want, okay? So what's kind of cool about the vision board is putting stuff on there that you want. Something that you would ask your daddy for, And so the Lord gave me a couple scriptures, like the first year that I did it. And one of them was the story in Joshua, okay, when Caleb's daughter got married, Aksa, and she got off her donkey. And she just got married, and she went to him because they needed water. They needed wells of water back then. And she went to her daddy Caleb, and she said, Dad, I need a spring of water. And he's like, no problem. I'll give you 2 springs of water. I'm going to give you the upper spring and the lower springs. I'm going to give you a double portion. I'm going to give you this whole piece of land. Right? And so God was showing me He's a good father, right? Yes. And you can ask Him for stuff and it's okay, So the whole London thing was really just this little delight, this little, gift, this little surprise. It's like, hey, I got you. I know you always wanted to go to Europe, and I'm giving you 4 hours to hang out in Europe on your way home. So, all right. All right, 2020. Do I have that one? Oh yeah, that was the one with the queen. Okay. So then the next year. Okay. So here's the next year. I'm skipping one of the years. It really was mostly just all Bible verses. It was mostly all about, Lord, what do you want? And it was more of a like. And when you do a vision board, you put it somewhere where you see it every day, right? So my other vision board that I didn't have a picture of is really just a bunch of Bible verses and stuff. And, it was about, which one was that? It was the 2009, I was in a lot of debt. That was 2019. I was $45,000 in debt on credit cards. And it was from my son's travel baseball and my daughter's wedding in the Bahamas and all these things that we didn't have money for, that we just kept throwing it on the credit card. And I'm like, I don't know, and then all of a sudden one day you turn around and you're like, oh my God, how did I get into so much debt, right? So that was my whole focus, was this is the year of getting out of debt and all these Bible verses about prosperity and all that kind of stuff, right? So it was nothing fun on that board. There was nothing fun. It was like, you will get out of debt. So I signed up for a program to get out of debt, and I handed my credit cards over to somebody, and I ended up having 0 credit for 5 years because I had to turn my credit card over to these people. And what they do is you stop paying the credit cards, the debtors, the credit people come after you, but you don't answer them because you turned everything over to this attorney, this attorney in California. And they handle it, and then they go back and they negotiate your credit cards, your $15,000 one down to like $6,000. And I had to pay them $600 a month, every month, to pay off all of these credit cards, which I was not doing. I was not paying $600 a month because I needed that money, right? But now because I determined I'm going to do this, I was paying $600, and it took me 5 years. But let me tell you, that was very joyful that day. Like, you're done, and all that debt is paid off, right? Okay, so now we're going to get to this one. So this is, now Terry in her book, she talks about doing like big ask, big dreams. And I love this story that she tells about Walt Disney. He would have a meeting, and he would say, what do you think we should do? What do you think we should do? And they'll all be like, they'd come up with ideas. And like, yeah, we could do that. It's a good idea. He says, we're not doing that. And then when somebody would come up with like a really big idea and they're like, that's impossible, we could never do that, he said, that's what we're going to do, the impossible one. And he did it, And lo and behold, we all know Walt Disney, right? Disney World. So this is my big, huge ask, okay? This is my farmstead community that I want to create for special needs people, okay? And these are all my cute little colorful houses, and I want to have a pool and a clubhouse and all this kind of stuff. But this golden retriever was just something I saw in the magazine. I'm like, oh, he's so cute, but I don't want a dog. I don't want a dog because I don't want to clean his poop. I don't want to walk him when it's freezing cold out. I don't want to pay for a vet, but he's so cute. I like Goldens. I'm like, well, maybe someday when I have the farm, we'll get the golden retriever to live on the farm because I'm not taking care of it. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so this one, none of this has happened yet. But if we fast forward to 2024. I became very involved, more so in the autism community because I have a podcast and everything now. But I was at a meeting to possibly with this other company that was maybe going to buy this building and turn it into like a YMCA with a pool and everything for special needs people, right? And this is the first time I'm meeting this girl ever, okay? And the guy that was running this facility had a golden retriever. And the golden used to hang out by the pool and swim in the pool, right? So the girl that I'm there to meet, she says, oh, I have a golden. I love golden retrievers. She says, I'm starting a new foundation called Golden Heart Advocacy, and it all in honor of my golden retrievers. And then as we're talking, she says, yeah, one of our goals is we want to have home. We want to create homes for people with special needs. I said, okay. Wow. And so all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, the golden, I'm like, that's on my vision board, and it's on the board with the group home. I said, I think I was supposed to meet you today.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's my farmstead, and some of the other stuff happened. Like in the one board that I didn't show you, it was a house down the shore. I wanted to go stay. I wanted to stay with my whole family and all my grandkids, and we did. They got a house in Outer Banks, and they that kind of stuff happened. But here, let's forward to okay. So now. Oh, and I didn't tell you about my books. Okay, so I'm sketching the books on the airplane. When we got back from Israel, we went into lockdown, right? So everybody was in lockdown. So I locked myself down at my dining room table for 12 hours a day, every day, and I started painting all my illustrations. So I painted 340 of these illustrations. And then in August, I did a Kickstarter campaign because it costs a lot of money. You would know, you're in the book business. It costs about $5,000 a book to get a book printed with all of those colored pages, and I had 3 of them because there's 4 stories in each book, 12 stories. So I had to come up with $15,000. Obviously, I didn't have that money because I told you I just got out of all that debt, right? So I did a Kickstarter, and it was just, long story short, it was just a miracle. All these people donated, and Cheryl, I think, was one of them because you left me a review on Amazon for my book. So I'm going to show you. So in 2021, they finally were published. Here they are. I'll show those around. Those are my little penguin books. Yes. And on April 2nd of 2021 for Autism Awareness Day, guess what? I was on the Today Show. I really was. Yes. But again, it was a goal on my vision board, and I took a class to learn how to get onto media, how to get onto TV and radio and podcasts and stuff, and I learned how to create a one sheet and how to do a pitch, and I learned how to track down the producer of the show and all that. If it wasn't on my vision board, it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have done it because I wouldn't have pursued that goal. Okay? Okay. So then I start putting on my vision board that my goal, here, where's the next one? I feel like I missed, oh, here it is. So here I started putting more stuff on here where I was going to be on TV. I was going to have my own TV show. I was going to, do the renovation of my house, which still has not happened. And up here I put Home Depot and Lowe's and Sherwin-Williams and stuff because I wanted my Paint Diva book to go in those, but I still had not finished my Paint Diva book because I took a break to do the kids' books. But that's what was going on here. And because nothing happened on this one, I didn't do a vision board the following year because I was kind of getting a little annoyed. I'm like, well, I'm not doing a new one until this stuff starts to happen, right? So, finally, in 2024, I finished my Paint Diva book, and you have to know it's a lot of work because I had to get, I needed a graphic designer to help me to lay it out and choose all the colors and the fonts and all this kind of stuff. And then I had to send a copy to Benjamin Moore and to Sherwin-Williams because I had to get their okay, their official okay, and then that's corporate, so it took 6 months to get the okay from them, for them to just write back that you just have to add one little paragraph that you're not employed by Benjamin Moore. I'm like, it took you 6 months for the legal department to tell me that? Thank you. Okay, so finally I got that done. And then it took Amazon months. They put it on back order for months for it finally to become done. Anyway, finally it was done. And here's that book. This one is my labor of love. This is 20 years of my life that I put into this book. You can pass it around. Everybody wants to see it. So again, I put it on my vision board to keep me focused. Okay, that this is what I need to do next. So now, of course, I have on there, oh, you're going to sell 1 million books, and all that kind of stuff on my vision board. Here's the next one. Now, I want you to notice the material that I put this on. This is just 2 pieces of paper, okay, that I taped together, and it just fits perfectly in my frame. So I have that paper here tonight, so you can do paper, or I think they brought you some poster board, so, it's up to you. And you notice some of these are fancier and some are not so fancy, and my friend that does the vision boards with me every year, she's like, tell them it doesn't have to be so as fancy as yours. I just make it because I know I'm going to hang in my office, so I'm going to look at it every day, So this one, all right, so this is 2024, okay. Vicinity Magazine is just a local magazine that highlights businesses in the area, in Union County, Morris County, that whole area. And so when we were going through the magazines, I saw the magazine, so I did the same thing. I cut her head off, and I put myself on the cover of the magazine. And a week later, the woman that writes for this magazine called me, and she said, I want to do an article on you for Vicinity, right? And so it wasn't on the cover, but I was in the magazine. And then I have myself here. I used to host this little cable TV show, so I wanted to pick up TV again. So this says the Paint Diva TV show, okay? And so in March, a woman that apparently I was at an event like this and I sat with her and I don't remember, and we became friends on Facebook. She sends me a private message. She says, do you want to do your own TV show? I was like, okay. She says, yeah, well, I started a new streaming network called Home Inspo TV, and we do like home design and cooking and shows like that. And she says, yeah, I want you to do your own show. It's like, okay, let's go. And then part of the deal is that she would get me on TV too. So I have myself like on, like with Kelly and Mark in the morning. Like it wasn't that, but she did get me on Channel 9 in New York, and then I flew down to DC to do I did two morning talk shows, and I mean the process, like I signed a contract, but it hasn't happened yet to do the show because she partnered with somebody else, like a bigger guy, a bigger money guy, and they moved the studio, and they're getting all that done. So, but it's coming. It's coming. Mm-hmm. Okay. Still haven't remodeled my bathroom. Still haven't done my renovation yet. And Florida ends up on there every year. But what did happen in 2024 is one of my very good friends, she built a house in Florida, and she's like, you want to come down? I'll pay for you to fly down. I'm like, heck yeah. So I've been down there like 5 times already, so I'm like, all right, close enough. It's not mine, but I get to go for free. Hey, That was 2025. Yeah, and then there's just the last one is this year. This is this year, and you'll notice that the golden made it again because I have him there with somebody with special needs in the center. But this is more, I felt like the Lord said to me, this is the year of TV. So I put myself, and this was just the AARP magazine. Drew Barrymore was in there. I was like, oh, I love Drew Barrymore. So I put myself on Drew's show, and I cut and pasted like my book in her hands. So it looks like she's reading my book, and I'm going to be on Drew Barrymore's show. I do happen to know a producer on Jennifer Hudson's show, so I'm going to schmooze him a little bit. But I had myself shaking hands with somebody from Lowe's, meaning I want to sign a contract that they'll sell my book. So everybody believed that with me. That'd be wonderful. And then this one here in the middle is the meatballs, and that's a story, that's my last story that I want to share with you, is that years ago, my husband's aunt had passed away, and she was about a month away from turning 100 years old. This is my mother-in-law's sisters, and they all lived till they were almost 100 years old. And nobody wanted to speak at her funeral, so they all asked me to do it. So I said, all right, well, what am I going to write about? I don't know. So I went and I talked to the grandkids, the kids, the siblings, the nieces, the nephews. I said, tell me a story about Aunt Rosie. What can you tell me about Aunt Rosie? Every single person said she made good meatballs. I said, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, she made good meatballs. I said, you've got to be kidding me. I got so mad. I said, you're telling me that this woman lived 100 years on this earth and the only thing you can say is she made good meatballs? I will tell you right now, that will not be me. They will have so much to say about me when I go. That was like a huge motivator to me, and so I decided that's my next book is going to be called More Than Meatballs.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
So that's it. Okay, so now it's your turn. So Cheryl, you got everybody little notebooks?
They were supposed to do that. No, I got everybody boards to take.
Okay. Board. Okay. 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 All right. So this is so these are just things that I want you to think about. Okay. And this is the message that I just heard this in my spirit when I was working on this. I felt like if I had a title for my message today, it would be "It's Not Too Late and You're Not Too Old." Amen? Okay. So let me tell you, now remember I told you these time frames. Danny Kramer, that word was 30 years ago. Okay? I was in my 30s. I'm going to be 62 years old on my next month. That means I'm going to be ready to collect Social Security. I'm a grandma. I got 4 grandkids. Okay? I could very easily sit down and retire. But I ain't doing it. Okay? I'm not retiring, I'm refiring, right? So much has happened just in the past 5 years of my life, way more than the whole rest of my life. Okay? So I just want to encourage you all, don't think that it's too late. Okay? It's not. And Psalm 93 says, the righteous will flourish like a palm tree planted in the house of the Lord. They will still bear fruit in old age. And they will stay fresh and green. Who's staying fresh and green? Okay. All right, so I don't know if you can take, okay, I thought you were going to have notebooks, but that's okay. But this is just kind of the things that I wanted you to write down to think about. Okay? When you do a vision board. Okay, we have little note cards?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm going to just give you a couple of different categories.
If you have a note section on your phone, you could do it on your phone.
You can do them there too. So, yeah, while you're passing that out, I had one other story that I wanted to tell you. This is about, like, when you look at magazines and, you know, and what we're going to do at the end is I'm going to turn music on and I want you to visualize. And it's a little prophetic exercise. And this happened to me a few years ago. I was with Paulette and I was paint. She had said, if you paint, I want you to come paint during worship. So I brought my easel, but I didn't want to bring regular paints because I was worried about spilling paint on the rug. So I just brought like a kid's set of watercolors, you know. And they started worship. I closed my eyes just for a minute, and I was like, Lord, show me what to paint. And I saw a rainbow. I'm like, really?
Really?
I'm like, a 5-year-old could paint a rainbow. I'm like, that's it? Yeah, a rainbow. Just paint a rainbow. I'm like, okay. So they do worship, and I paint a rainbow, and that was it. And then at the end of the service, this girl comes up to me and she says, I want to tell you a story. She says, I was in a very abusive relationship, and I left, and I flew out to visit my grandmother in Hawaii, and I was out there for a few weeks to get over this, you know, abuse situation. And she said, every single day when I was in Hawaii, I saw a rainbow. And I took a picture of it every day. She said, I just flew home here this morning, and my friend said, come to church with me today. So she had her eyes closed during worship, and then when she opens her eyes, the first thing she sees is a painted rainbow. I said, Lord, I will not question you. You tell me to do a rainbow, I'm going to do a rainbow. So if you're looking through magazines and you see a golden retriever, you put it on the board. And if you see Big Ben, you put it on the board because you don't know what's coming down the line. Okay? It means nothing now, but it will mean something later. Okay? Are you ready? Everybody got your notes? Okay. All right. So the first category would be relationships. Okay? I'm just going to ask you. I'm just throwing out different things in relationships. Do you want to get married? Or maybe with a friend's relationship. Maybe you want to go on a girls' trip. I want to go to Italy. I want to go on a cruise, right? Family restoration. Like I have a friend that her 4 kids don't speak to her because her ex-husband turned them all against her. Like that would be a big goal for her, is her 4 kids on there, right? Are you an introvert? You don't like to really go out, okay? Like maybe you need new relationships, you want to make new friends, okay? Next category would be work or business. What kind of goals would you have for that? Like maybe you need to grow your social media account. I put that on one of mine. I'll have 100,000 followers. Until I found out that you have to post 3 to 5 times a day, every day. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. Do you want to get a promotion? Do you want to retire? Do you want to start your own business? Do you need to hire help? Do you want to do crafts? Like you can put a goal, I'll do 10 craft shows this year. Do you need to build a website? Do you want to join a networking group? Okay, anything sort of work or business related. Okay, the next one would be projects. Do you want to write a book? You want to start a podcast? Start a YouTube channel. You can tell these are all my goals. Do you want to write a song? Do you want to learn to paint? Do you want to renovate a house? Would you like to learn to paint? What kind of project would you like to do? Financial. Do you want to pay off your debt? Do you want to save for a vacation? You can have a goal like, I will save $20,000. And here's the other thing Terry talks about, which I forgot to mention. You want to be very specific. So everybody in January does a New Year's resolution, right? And this takes it way beyond, right? So the New Year's resolution would be, I'm going to lose weight. Great, but that's not specific, right? You need to say, I will lose 20 pounds by July 1st. And then you count, 1, 2, 3, that's 4 months. I need to lose 5 pounds every month. Okay, so I need to lose 5 pounds. You have to work out the plan, okay? But the specific will be, I will lose 20 pounds by July 1st, not I'm going to lose weight, right? I don't know how I'm doing. You're a nutrition counselor over here. And if you need help, talk to her. Okay. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to join the gym, or more specific, I will take a Pilates class. Right? I wrote, I will see a holistic doctor. Right? Okay. Next category, fun.
What's that?
I want to take okay, then you need to put this on your board. Okay, I want to take a vacation. Be specific. I want to go to Florida. I want to go to the Bermuda. I want to go,
Fiji.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to get a new hobby. I want to join a book club. I'm going to learn how to play pickleball. I want to go skiing. I used to ski when I was a kid. I haven't been skiing in 20 years. I want to go back and go ski. I want to join a garden club. I want to learn how to play an instrument. Right? Okay, next category, adventures. This one you're going to laugh at these. I want to feed the dolphins. I want to drive a race car. I've always wanted to drive a race car. I want to ride in a hot air balloon.
Yes.
I want to ride in a speedboat. I want to jump out of an airplane. None of these made this on any of my boards. I want to rent an RV and drive it to California. I want to visit Alaska. Right?
Alaska sounds good.
Okay. All right. Number 8 would be bucket list. Italy is mine. I want to go to Italy. I want to go to Israel. Many Christians have that. They want to go to Israel, right? I want to learn how to dance or flag in church. I want to learn a new language. I want to visit all 50 states. I would love to go see the Olympics or the Super Bowl. I want to see a Broadway play. I want to ride a horse. I want to take a cruise. Right? Whatever would be your bucket list. Okay. Next category would be spiritual. I want to start a Bible study. I want to read the whole Bible in a year. I want to do a 21-day fast. I need to discipline myself to pray an hour a day. Right? I want to go on a mission trip. I want to join a ministry team. I want to get to church on time. I just thought that there's a lot of people that should have that goal. That kind of drives me nuts when people come in like the last 5 minutes of worship. I'm like, you missed the whole point.
Right.
Okay. All right, next one, philanthropic. I want to volunteer at a foundation. I want to volunteer at an animal shelter or at a homeless shelter. This is my sister's this. I want to visit a hospital or a prison. I want to donate to a charity. I want to cook for a food train because you're a good cook and you want to know how can I use that, right? Okay. The next one is personal or emotional. I want to become bolder. I had that on a couple of mine. I had the lion. I will become as bold as a lion.
Seriously?
I want to be nicer. Somebody else just told me that yesterday, so I had to add that. I want to get more motivated. I need to protect my peace. I need to forgive someone, or I need to apologize to someone, or I want to fulfill some long-term goal.
Have fun.
Okay.
I want to have fun.
Well, there you go. That should be big ones on yours.
It is.
Okay, and then there's the big ask, right? With the Walt Disney story that I told you. My big one is to build that whole farmstead community, right? It's like, it's something that's impossible in the natural. It would be a bit, that has to be God, because there's no other way, right? So that would be like starting a ministry, building a dream house, starting a foundation, or I want to meet the president. Or it would be like, I know that's, well, this one is like if money was no object, or it would take a miracle, but, right? And then the last one is your meatballs. Okay, how do you want to be remembered? What do you want to leave behind? Yeah. What would you leave behind, right? And this is something that I thought a lot about. Like, one of the reasons why I wrote my books, like when I wrote the Paint Diva book, because I learned all this stuff over 20 years and I do something that really nobody does. I want to pass all that knowledge on to the next generation so that somebody else can now do what I've done, right?
Yeah.
So you can, and this is something my husband had said to me years ago. He said, you know, what does it say on a grave? It says, beloved mother, beloved aunt, sister, whatever. It doesn't say, she had a really clean house. Because he's talking about his mother, you know, it's like that's all she cared about was clean, 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 you know, and but to the neglect of the emotional health of your children, you know what I mean? Like it's the goals that people have sometimes are dumb and you need to shift it, you know, because it's people that are important, right? Okay. And that it's your meatballs or your destiny. And Terry says that your destiny is something that you love and something that you're passionate about. So it's to think about what, you know, really, what you're going to leave behind and what is your destiny. That, you know, for me, like I've known for 30 years what I'm supposed to do. And now I'm like, really? Now I'm going to get on TV at 62 years old. I'm like, God, you couldn't do this when I was 20 pounds lighter, and, you know, things are starting to droop a little, you know, like.
I say this all the time. Really? Now?
Right? Yes, exactly. I'm like, really? Now?
30.
So.
70.
Okay. So that's it. Where are we on time? Because I was gonna just put some music on, and I want you guys.
Each 27.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to put a song on, and I want everybody to close your eyes, and I want you to. Where's my phone? Okay, I'm going to just shut this off.